if there was one decision you could make up here, what would it be? And she pointed at one of the waitresses and said, I'd fire her right now. Sometimes people will tell you, this is what I would do, and this is the best, and it's not the best idea. That waitress was with me the day I closed the business. If I would have did this, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
If I would have did this, this wouldn't have happened. Yeah. And in that mindset, so much clarity. One of my favorite, KFC. How many times that man failed over and over.
KFC to close hundreds of its outlets.
Wasn't he like 65 or 70
he was
before
in
he
his
actually
70s
succeeded?
before KFC became.
If you listen to anything we say today, I want you to know that if you're going through bankruptcy, if your life is upside down, it's nothing that nobody in this room has not been through before. Like, there's nothing that hard work can drag you out of. Mm-hmm. To now, like, I don't think that I'm big and rich by any means, but my life is easily 100x. All right, welcome to Let's Go podcast. Today, I have a long-term friend, ex-business partner, on the show with me today. This is DJ Fortenberry. DJ is currently DJ. What's your position with the city? Because I really don't know.
I get asked that question all the time.
I call you Friday's right hand.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
Community relations liaison is what my job title is. Kind of a little bit economic development, a little bit fix problems as they come into City Hall, a little bit whatever the mayor needs me to do.
Yeah, yeah. Now, what we did agree is that neither one of us wanted to talk about politics
at all,
or what's going on in Monroe right now.
I think enough of everyone's social media feed is full with that. Yeah, the mayor and I started a podcast because we were tired of seeing local politics on social media, and we wanted to just talk about businesses winning around here, right? Like, it was just, it could be too much.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's just something that makes my head hurt. Mm-hmm. I think the portion, like the part of Let's Go, I actually thought about this the other day, is I called it Let's Go because I say Let's Go a lot. Like whenever something really exciting happens, I'm like, let's fucking go. Like, I get super excited and I want to amp people up. And I thought about this. I was like, I think the portion of Let's Go that actually means something to me is I want to, like, I'm literally saying, let's go. I want to take you with me. Let's go win together. Yep. And so that's what we want to bring you along, a journey of winning today. And as we talk about that journey of winning, DJ and I were in here discussing, because this was very last minute. We're like, hey, what are we going to talk about? Now, if you know DJ and I, we can talk for a very long time together. Mm-hmm. In fact, if you just put DJ in a room alone, he can talk for a very long time.
I can keep that wall right there entertained for sure. For sure.
Yeah. But we're going to take you guys along a journey of loss to winning.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting you start off like that with the taking people along with you, because where this all started with Harrison and I is we both many years ago worked for competitive bar owners in the market, and we both saw the opportunity of teaming up on a very early stage, like, hey, let's get together, do this together, and go from there, and then we don't have to fight going. It was that mentality from the very, very beginning, and still talking about it today.
Yeah. And what was funny is that, you and I teamed up from competitive bars. Like, I was working at one. Now, I guess the beginning was there were two big rivalries in bars. Yep. We're going to just leave names out.
Yeah, it's probably for the best.
Yeah, right. And then so those people didn't like each other at all.
Right.
DJ and I still were acquaintances at best. We didn't really talk a whole lot. But then when I moved into there was another bar owner that came into town, and they were doing something different. And that's when you and I really connected. You were doing the thing at Pickle Barrel. I was working for Andy at Live Oaks. And I think whenever I started working at Scruff's, we started talking a lot more as well. Yep. And so over time, we're like, hey, let's team up and let's do this. But we didn't just team up together. We rented from Andy, who owned the bar next door. Right. And then even though we had nothing to do with each other, well, I was still running that bar. But we synced our schedules so that we weren't competing against each other in the same block. Right. Like, so even though we were on separate teams, we were like, hey, let's team up and let's take the market. And I would argue that we did a really good job of that.
We did. I think it was always kind of uniform. Like, the best customer was not the person that came in and spent $100 that night. The best customer was the person that came in with 3 or 4 different wristbands on.
Yeah.
Right? That meant they were actually enjoying the entertainment in the area, which then allowed the business to have more of a long-term effect and staying power in the area. Because if you go, that's kind of one of the the things here. Like you can go find fun for one weekend, but then it was always kind of the same fun over and over again.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to deliver,
and you couldn't go get a new experience either. Like you would go, and let's just say, for instance, you go to Tower Drive. Where you're on an island and you're intoxicated, and you don't want to drive because that's bad. Right. So you're stuck where you're at, and we created an atmosphere where you could go, hey, you know what? I'm not really feeling a DJ tonight. I'm feeling a sit down social atmosphere. Well, boom, let's just walk next door. I'm feeling live music tonight. Boom, let's go next door. And so we had all those things available to our clientele, and we made sure that we rotated those entertainments throughout the bars, so no one became stale and everyone made a lot of money.
And that's not really a knock on any bar owners or past bar owners.
No, that was just the idea that worked.
Well, it's also just the atmosphere of the business that this market brings. You know, this isn't New Orleans. There's not a million people looking to go out every night. So you have to kind of play within the realm of where you can play. And that was the mindset. A bunch of smaller bars would make a lot more sense, because as a bar owner, you know, it gets to a certain point where it's kind of part of the business where every 4 to 5 years you got to shut down, rename, remodel. That's a huge front end investment on every business, and you got to hope that it works out for you, that you can make that up in 2 years.
Yeah, you got to make that money back for 2 years, make profit for 3, shut down for 1, drop $100,000, update your sound equipment, your light equipment. And at that point, you have to go find new staff. Your people have aged out. Your freshmen have now graduated. You need to hire new college kids, or you can have adult bartenders, but for what we were doing at the time, wasn't really for us. And so now you've aged out. Now you have to go rehire all your managers, rehire your DJs. You know, and it's a tough cycle.
It's a high school popularity contest every 4 years
on who gets the bartending job.
Right.
Yeah.
And the businesses and where people are going and how it's going, and that's the thing I think all the owners really wish we had, was that it's very, very competitive. They wish it wasn't as competitive, but that's just
the nature of business.
You play on the field you play on.
Yeah. And every business, like at least every business I've been in, or maybe I'm the one who makes it this way, I don't know, because I'm hyper competitive. I want to win. I am willing to win at all costs, and so I was playing in a sandbox where everybody else was playing with that same mentality. So everybody was spending money, up in their game, open earlier. Well, you couldn't stay up open any later, but going the extra mile to get more customers and be number one. But that's the mentality that winners bring to every stage, right?
That's right, and that's where competition next to competition makes winners better.
Yes.
You know, it's like from the segue, I guess, into the real estate world, where the development game, where I've used this saying in the last few weeks, the McDonald's effect. McDonald's pops open on a corner. Within the next 6 months to a year, there will probably be another fast food chain somewhere right there around
Taco Bell, Wendy's, something will be there.
Because they recognize this as a high quality corner. There's something going on here. We need to be right there in that competition. And I think that was kind of the nature of the thought process all along, was like, hey, how do we put them all in one area? And you look now, when we were in college, it was on Briard, Tower, downtown, 3rd Street, where everything was at.
So 3rd Street, 6th Street, 3rd and Olive, which that would have been corner. Right? And then again, 6th Street's again on Scruffs, then Briard, and then Tower. And so everybody was kind of on an island. And even though that I named a lot of streets that were in like downtown Monroe, like that's
walking.
That's big walking, and at nighttime, not a super comfortable walk, especially if you're a female. So there was nowhere for you to hop around.
And so now it's somewhat consolidated, where you have a lot on Desert, and now it's a lot on downtown on 3rd Street.
Third and Olive is taking off, and I'm going to take a little bit of credit for that. You can take just as much, if not more. You stuck around longer than I did.
It took probably about 3 years of our life, right, on the demoing of that building we were in.
Oh, dude, wait, we probably shouldn't talk about it. Your friends at Code Enforcement are coming to see us retroactively.
My back was definitely seized up multiple times. There was a couple times Harrison called me and said, "Hey, bro, I ain't gonna be able to make it today."
Oh, dude, I was physically sick because of what we were inhaling. Asbestos.
But that was 10 when we moved into that building. And this is a really cool part of revitalization and property redevelopment. When were in that building demoing it out, we took down 3 layers of wall, 3 layers of flooring, kind of came in, did some of the concrete work ourselves, did a lot of, like, it was a first phase business through and through.
We didn't have money.
No, if we could do the work, we were doing the work.
Oh, yeah.
And there were things that we did to a building that wasn't, it's going to be dark in here, so it doesn't really have to be that well done.
Yeah, remember that day that I said, dude, I used to finish concrete. I'm good. That did not go. I forgot how to finish concrete.
It turns out. The first layer of paint we put on the wall, there was one part that was lime green, and I thought it looked great, and everybody was like, DJ, that looks like crap. We need to
I remember walking in and going, DJ, I won't even come here and drink, and I own the thing.
But so there was a lot of growing pains, a lot of learning that happened there. But man, it was, we had a goal of, if we could average 100 people a night, we were going to make money. And we did more than that. And it was really, really well. It was a great first bar.
Let's just say that we maxed out fire capacity.
Yeah, well.
Normally. And leave it at that. Yeah.
On certain nights.
Yeah.
But it was fun, man. We had brought in a crowd that was somewhat the same as the rest of the block, but also different, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody had something a little different on that corner, and it just worked. Can't tell you how many divorce parties we had, people showing up tuxedos or wedding reception after parties, and just a lot.
To be clear, we're not proud of the divorce parties. We didn't choose them nor market for them.
I did appreciate their money getting spent.
Whatever. It's part of the bar industry.
But it was, I guess what I'm saying is older crowd that was in there, but we weren't really targeted that way. The beauty of the bar business, and I've seen a couple that I've worked in, you open in most businesses, open with a goal of what you think your customer is going to look like.
Your clientele pretty much pick you in the bar, and they go, we belong here or we don't, right?
Yep.
But my goal for like a bar in my head was always Cheers, right?
Yep. That's a bar. I think a lot of people around here get clubs and bars confused. They're very different.
Yeah, well, I completely agree. But we didn't mean to really open a club.
No.
But it kind of evolved. One of my favorite television shows of all time is Cheers. And it's everything that I dream of in a bar is in the song. You want to be where everybody knows your name, right? You want to be in a place where you walk in and they go, Norm! And because you feel in that moment, like what happens when I can tell you this, I'll give you an example. I go to, single guy, it costs just as much for me to go out to a nice restaurant as it does for me to cook for myself, and then I end up throwing away half the food anyway. And then I have to do dishes on top of that. So it just makes sense for me to go out to eat by myself. And so I go to Parish a good bit, Doe's a good bit. When I book a reservation at Parish, my drink is on the table before I walk in. They know what I drink. It's a Woodford Double Neat. It's already on the table. I walk in. The person at the front already knows who I am. The bartenders and the waiters all know who I am. Dude, I'm walking in like feeling like a rock star. It's almost like a slow motion video where I'm just going through and low five and high five and get like hitting knuckles, right? And people are like, hey, Harrison, what's up, right? Like that's my Norm moment. If you've ever watched that show, you'll know that Norm moment is actually really special, right? Yep. Norm found his place. Yep. That's what the bar was for me at the time. It's not anymore.
That's what the bank is for you now, right? Like you want that feeling when you walk in a bank, right?
Yeah, some don't like me. I started negotiating rates and fees a little bit more than I used to. I mean, you start to realize like, they make a lot of money off my deposits, and I give them a lot of money in interest. Yeah. We're going to change our relationship,
right?
But no, but yes, that is kind of like my bar now, right? They should serve me whiskey.
It'd be great.
I'm about to petition the bankers.
There you go. Yeah. Here, I'll bring the bottle.
No. I pay them enough. But that's the atmosphere that you want to create is this customer service thing, and that's what people are looking for, but they choose whether that's home or not, I guess was my biggest point. Right. So they're looking, and I think that when people are going to places like that, they're looking for that Norm moment.
I think so the mayor talks about this all the time. We work in the service industry in government.
Yes.
99.9% of the time when people call me with an issue, I get two things. First and foremost, man, I don't mean to bother you, but bother me, people. That is what your tax dollars actually pay me to do. Is you bothering me.
Just bother me respectfully, please.
Yeah. And I don't care. You call me at 11 o'clock at night. I might answer. I might not.
Oh no, but I will respond. Like how they speak to you.
But then there's the second one where it's like when they call, it is the biggest issue in their world at that moment.
Right.
For me, it might just be a Monday.
Yeah.
Right. Like I've seen this happen. But recognizing that just because someone calls you and they're angry with you doesn't mean they dislike you or they hate you. They're just having a tough experience. And so that customer service, that restaurant owner, bar owner, business owner mentality kind of kicks in. Yeah, I understand. I hear what you're saying. Let me figure this out. You know, most people are like, I need a meeting with the mayor. I get that. I understand why you feel that way. But if I can fix that problem for you right now, do you really need a meeting with the mayor?
Yeah.
I just need the problem fixed.
But that's your job, right?
Right.
Is to protect the mayor's time.
Right. But that's where it comes from. That kind of why I'm in that customer service role.
Yeah.
And the things you learn as a small business owner from the restaurant industry, the bar industry. And there are times when you need to tell people, look, stop. This you're being a little too much. We need to end this conversation right now if you can't be civil. But I ran into that how many times in the bar industry? How many times in the restaurant industry?
Yeah, food comes out wrong, and then they want an 8 top comped for it, right? Like, would it be okay if we just remade your meal?
Right. There's humans involved. Error is going to happen.
Absolutely.
Especially in government. Man, we got almost 1,000 employees, and there's a lot of different things that we're doing on a regular basis to sit there and say, hey, the CEO should know everything that's going on. I don't disagree with that, but I also don't agree with that.
They should have a 30,000-foot view of going on, but if they know everything, then there's no time to work on the big problems.
Right.
A CEO's job, and this is my opinion, or at least this is what my studies have led me to believe, is to, I mean, obviously it's to protect the P&L and grow it, but it's also to say when they wake up every morning, what is the biggest ball that I can move forward today that is going to create the most for my people, for my organization, and for their worlds.
Agreed.
And so there's some minor things where you have people in place, such as you, where it's like, hey, protect my time.
Right.
I'm going to tackle Goliath today.
Right.
I need you to handle the rest of the Philistines.
Right.
I need you to handle the smaller ones so that I can tackle Goliath.
Well, and it's why a lot of the things that we have are kind of compartmentalized. They're in different departments and different divisions that are over different projects. Now, leading the leadership over those groups is where the CEO really wins, right?
Yeah.
But leading the individual employee, it didn't, like you said, it takes up too much of your time. You're not able to concentrate on the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And
one person cannot manage 1,000.
that's right.
Yeah, one person manages 5, 6, 7 people effectively. Those people should be going to be managed theirs. Those people should be going to manage theirs.
That's right.
It's a big ass triangle.
And that's honestly the hierarchy we have set up at City Hall. It's where department heads report to the CEO, and we have executive staffers where we report to the mayor, but I also report to Kelsey McCrary, who's our economic and cultural development director.
Okay.
And so like I'm in that department through her, and she's, and then there's board meetings. It's set up like an actual business should be run. And in the same breath, there are things that, go on in those meetings where it's leadership conversations and decisions. It's the bigger picture conversation that's going on. And there are things that I do, like, let's be honest, don't necessarily needed in those conversations, right?
Yeah.
Just get the problem fixed.
Yeah.
And I think that's what our goal is to ultimately provide the best customer service we can. We come up short on that all the time. Humans are involved.
Yep.
But we try to fix those problems when we can. And when things are brought to light, I think some people are kind of, I don't want to really complain about this because complain.
Yeah.
This is your tax dollars at work.
Yeah.
If you don't see it right, you got to let somebody know. See something, say something, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't, then it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. But we don't see everything from everyone's perspective either.
You need others' eyes, You don't know what's going on in Garden District trash cans. I
try to live in there, but I don't know everything, right?
Oh, that's a little inside joke there, guys.
I have been walking around a couple times, and we'll send our division heads over that, hey, here's a garbage can that needs to be replaced, and I'm sure they haven't called in or anything like that. But you can't, like you said, one person can't manage 1,000, and 1,000 people aren't going to see everything.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. No, it takes a community to run a community. Now, we promised we weren't going to talk about Monroe City politics.
Yeah, that's not really politics. That's just Monroe City work.
Yeah, well, that's true too. But let's go back to our story of partnership and kind of the evolution of that. We talked about how me and DJ were going to. We decided we were going to team up from opposite. I mean, we were on. I mean,
we're competing bars.
Yeah, I mean, red team versus blue team, and we were like, hey, let's make a purple team.
That was a Halo comment right there.
I didn't really mean for that. I don't even play Halo. I just mixed the colors. So
yeah,
anyway.
That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, so we decided we were going to team up, and we opened a bar. I had a location, and DJ had a dream, and we went together, and we just kind of meshed those dreams. We made a bar called Neat together. It was something we both believed in because I still to this day don't drink mixers. I mean, I'll drink a margarita, but outside of that, it's everything I drink is neat. And then so it's just something we believe was the authenticity of good alcohol.
Yeah.
Some people may go, what? And I'm like, no, look, there's a different world out there when you begin to appreciate the notes and the mixtures and the mixologists and what they actually do for a living. But going into our business, we had a dream, we executed, we put in a ton of labor, and that's when our story takes off. Yeah. Let's talk about it.
When you say takes off, you mean fizzles out or takes off? Because it got to a certain point. So at that time, my wife and I owned Pickle Barrel, and we had opened Neat. Harris and I opened Neat, and then a couple years later, I opened a company called Ghost Tactical. Had a little bit of real estate, not nearly to the level. Hindsight being what it was, there was a direction where Harris and I parted ways. I ended up buying him out on Neat. It's about a year in, 2 years in, something like that.
It was somewhere between a year and two, yeah.
And we had, he went the real estate route. And like I said, hindsight, I'm like, man, I probably should have leaned into that a little bit too, My guy learned a lot. And what's crazy is, you made a post the other day, and I think some people may take this a little negatively, but you're about cooking brisket. And I'm like, you were new at real estate at one point, didn't know what the heck you were doing now.
Dude, when you posted that, I had to read it twice.
Yeah.
Because I was like, did he really just say that? And I read it, and again, I was like, oh, that really wasn't that bad. No. I got what you were saying the second time. Yeah. But
we're all, baseball I'm from between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. Baseball brought me up here.
Yeah.
At one point in time, and I just had this conversation with my little girl. The first time we've had this conversation, I signed her up for softball this week, and she said, well, Daddy, I'm not any good at softball. I was like, I know, baby, but you got to learn. And we'll figure out if you're going to be good at it or not. And the only way you're going to get good at it is practicing and learning and failing and going through everything. And so in that same breath, those first few years after I bought, working at Nukes and getting into real estate and learning how it goes. And, there's not a lot of companies where you step out as a kind of a first year realtor where people take you under their wing and hey, look, this is how it's done. Right. It's just kind of it's a sink or swim kind of mentality. But I think what a lot of people don't recognize is that as a realtor, you are starting your own business.
Oh, definitely.
And that is, you don't find that in new business startup anyway. Some companies will help you out with that. I was at the small business route after my stuff kind of closed, and we helped a little bit with that, but it also gets to a certain point. It's like, hey, look, man, at the end of the day, you got to learn how to swim on your own. And in that, man, years where you and I took a different forks in the road when we parted ways in the bar. And it was, I think some people could look at it as a step back. For you, I looked at it as a step forward. I think earlier we were talking off camera, and I told you that.
Dude, I mean, at that point in I thought my life was over. If you would have asked me, so what year was that? That was 2016 when I walked away from the bars. I walked away from Neat. Me and you weren't getting along, and you bought me out. And we'll talk about that a little bit. And then I actually got fired from Live Oaks, right? And I'm not used to being fired. First of all, I am the hardest worker in any room, in my opinion. We can compete for that, but I'm going to do my best to outwork you, right? Right. And actually, I had tried to leave months before, they wouldn't let me leave, and then I get let go unexpectedly. And man, I was hurt. I was angry. I was mad. Because if you would have asked me where I thought I was going to be in 10 years, I would have told you that I would still be running bars and restaurants and being in the hospitality industry. I actually did really well. I had a 6-figure income in bars and restaurants. Not so much when I went to Nukes, just so everybody's clear. That'd be the poorest I've ever been in my life. Which nobody take that as a slight to Nukes. Because those people, like if you'll hear me say this on podcasts, you'll hear me say this in a lot of interviews. I owe a lot to Nukes and a gentleman named Will Irwin. Man, they were phenomenal people. They were really good to me. But I thought my life was over. I remember specifically Andy Eaton, who's the owner of Doe's Eat Place, Washington. Well, not Washington Wine and Spirits anymore. Beef and Barrel. Yep. And he would check on me every now and then. And I remember specifically, I told DJ this earlier. I'd say the same thing to him every time. I was like, "You lost the right to ask me how I'm doing." I didn't give a fuck anymore. I was so angry because I felt like they had hurt me. And I remember I didn't. When me and you split part ways, we didn't speak for probably a year.
It was a while,
2 years maybe. And then I didn't speak to them for maybe.
We spoke once a month. Here's your check, Harrison.
Oh, yeah, give me my money. We'd speak about that. That was cordial. But I didn't speak to Ron and Andy for probably 3 years. I refused to actually even go in the restaurant. Yeah, I was forced to go into the restaurant. Some of my family members had dinner. I wouldn't. They're like, "You gonna eat?" Nope, not a thing. I was hurt. I was bitter, and I'd kind of gotten over that. It was probably year 3 or 4, somewhere in there. And Chad, which I'm still really good friends with Chad. He works for them, and he's like, "Harrison," he's like, "Come in and have a whiskey with me, man. Like, come, like, let's sit down and talk." And so I went to the bar, and he bought me a drink, and we sat there and talked, and Ryan showed up. I was already irritated. And Ryan had a few drinks, and he said, he started laughing. I mean, he sat right beside me. Like, this man was agging me.
It's what I would do. Absolutely.
I mean, at one point in time, you got to realize that we were all very close. Like, all of us were extremely close. And he started laughing. Like, he took a drink, and he just started giggling. I was like, "What's funny?" And he's like, "How's life going?" I said, "It's going good." He goes, "Yeah, I can tell." He said, "You're welcome." And I went, "Huh?" He said, if we wouldn't have fired you, you'd still be here. You'd be serving me my drink." And I looked at him. I was like, damn. Perceivably, what I thought was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Like, it's actually tears coming to my eyes right now about this. At that time in my life, I felt so low. I had lost my kid. I'd lost my bar. I'd lost my business partner. I felt like I'd lost all my dreams. I felt like the people that cared about me the most had turned their back on me and stabbed me in the back for a reason I still do not know today, if I'm being honest. And then when he said that to me, like, it all kind of shed away, because I'm like, you're kind of right. Because had I not been like ejected out of the seat that I was in, I would still be serving drinks today, or maybe I'd be checking your ID at a bar that I owned, right? And instead, that rejection, that failure, landing on my face and having a reset, it taught me humility, because I think we can all agree I was not a very humble person at that point in my life.
I'll let you keep talking. I love you, brother.
I love you too, man. And it taught me humility. It taught me that failure is not the end.
Right.
And it taught me that hard work can dig you out of anything. So if you listen to anything we say today, I want you to know that if you're going through bankruptcy, if your life is upside down, if your wife leaves you, if she takes the kids from you, if you have a drug problem, if you have an alcohol problem, it's nothing that nobody in this room has not been through before.
Yeah, we can talk about mine next if you want.
Right? Yeah, this will turn into a therapy session real quick. Like, there's nothing that hard work can't drag you out of. And I've gone from that to where I thought that I was big and rich to now, like, I don't think that I'm big and rich by any means, but my life is easily 100x what it used to be. My quality of life, my quality of people, money, assets, time,
sleep schedule.
Oh, I sleep at night now. I sleep at night. It's great. Everything, what I thought was the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life was actually the best thing that ever happened for me in my life. It didn't happen to me. It happened for me. And that's, you call that what you want. I'm going to call it God.
Man, I've learned, in the last few years, when we talk about Harrison's failures, and the word failure to me You only fail if you don't learn something from it.
Yeah.
It is only a law. You can lose all the time and you learn more in losses, but you only really fail if you don't learn anything in that loss. If you don't take anything away from that and say, you know what, this is what I should have done better, this is what I'm going to do better going forward, then you have actually failed.
Yeah.
You know, because how many times you hear, one of my favorite, KFC, how many times that man failed over and over and
over.
over.
65 or 70
he was
before
in
he
his
actually
70s
succeeded?
before KFC became,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, it's never too late. You know, we'll talk about Harrison's. I'll lean into mine. So in 2018, the life of the bar business, if you get 4 to 5 years, that's a grand slam.
Yeah, you nailed it.
It's an incredible lifetime for a bar. In this market, we had, and there's things like, it's the craziest thing. And we had 350 people in there one Saturday. The next Saturday, I had 14. That is nothing a business does. That is the nature of that business. And you prepare for those. You get multiple, which is why I opened Blend. And then, you know, there are opportunities in there to see it before it comes and to adjust. And then there's sometimes where it just comes in and you're like, okay, this competitor opened up. All right, where do we go from here? How do I reset? And so really, and I think it was November of 2017 was really when I should have closed the doors. But Andy Eaton, Miss Virginia Eaton, incredible landlords, went to him, said, look, I'm going to limp along until Mardi Gras because the parade's going to pass right in front of us. I'm going to make a big lick, pay you then, and that's my last day of being open. Is that cool? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. You know, y'all came in.
Pay us our money, we're good. Yeah.
Right. And here's the beauty of that building, and I know you've thought about this, and I've thought, so many people when we opened came to us and said, man, when did y'all build this? Right. And that building, like there was a piece of paper on the wall when we were demoing out that was dated to 10 years before we were in that building. And I'm not joking when I say there were holes in the roof that were this big. And Harrison and I did all the work with the exception of one thing. We asked the Eatons, can you please just replace the roof? Because we knew that was going to be a big cost, and we did everything else.
And we didn't have any money.
No.
We were broke.
Right.
Yeah.
But we did a lot of this work and did a lot of and found a lot of success in there. But we, like I said, we revitalized this, and the Eatons have had a tenant every single day since we moved into that building, right?
Yeah. Oh, no. I mean, look, it was a great deal for him.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And the craziest part about that deal, one of my favorite parts about that deal, when Andy came in and bought Miscues, there were a bunch of people that wanted to buy it, but nobody wanted the building in the lot behind it because it wasn't being used. And Andy's like, nah, I'm good. Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah. And he takes it, and it did. It sat vacant for a little while with nothing. And, you know, we approached him one night. It was a slow night at Live Oaks, and I'm like, Andy, me and Harrison want to put a bar in that building. He's like, he laughed. He literally laughed at me. He's like, have you ever been in there?
No.
I don't need to be in there.
I remember his voice. He's like, that place is a shithole. Are you serious? He didn't even consider it. And we're like, dude, we're two dudes with a dream. Like, we're willing to go in there and die of cancer.
Yeah. And it's been, look, again,
happens.
he's had a tenant ever since, which is a home run for them. And then it also didn't hurt that they were opening Doe's at the same time we were opening Neat. So we'd get a random, hey, we got a wine tasting, and we got to season the broiler over here. Y'all want some steak and wine?
Dude,
twist my arm.
Dude, I remember. So, you know, because as I worked for them, like since I ran their bar, I got an employee tab over at Doe's, so 50% off. And I remember looking back at my credit card statement at 50% off. I think I spent like $13,000 in Doe's the first year. That's insane.
Yeah, it is insane.
That is insane.
The food is amazing.
Dude,
it's amazing.
I still eat there.
Yeah.
I got my frequents are, I guess, Parish, Doe's. I go to Warehouse every now and then. I went to another restaurant. I'm not going to say the name. I know this is super off subject. I apologize. But I went to another restaurant here recently. No, we're the same thing everywhere. It's a double Woodford Neat. And I get my bill, and I see Dallas prices with a credit card surcharge. And I guess I'm not really offended about the price of alcohol because alcohol is expensive. It's a luxury to drink. But then when I saw on top of the Dallas prices, the credit card surcharge, I was like, I'm never drinking here again. I was borderline offended. Nicer restaurants don't even do that. I can go to a nicer restaurant and get a cheaper drink, and they don't tax me for my credit card. I just felt so insulted.
Well, we were going to charge you if you came drink with us.
Yeah, but we weren't charging Dallas prices either.
You're right.
We had drink specials.
Yeah, but it was.
Dude, my double neat was the price of the bottle in Monroe. And not even, again, I'm in a pubish atmosphere.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about it off camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little like not coming back for this.
It happens. Look, I've learned this as a business owner. People come to you and you're like, man, I got this great idea. I'm like, well, what is it? Oh, well, I don't want to tell you. Look, if it's a great idea, nobody's going to implement it like you will, or nobody's going to implement it like I will. I'll tell you all my great ideas. I don't care.
Yeah.
I challenge you to try to implement it like I do.
Absolutely.
But I also, with that mindset, I also do go into businesses and say, man, like if I walk into a bar or a restaurant, I'm immediately picking it apart in my own head. Well, I would do this different. I would do this different. And it took me a while to get to the point where I don't need to voice that opinion to people because it's their business, not mine. And and it's but you as a business owner, you get into that mindset where it's like, man, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But if it's working for you,
Yeah, but
and so like things like that, like prices and stuff like that.
I don't think it is working for them.
No, I mean, it happens.
In fact, I say this, I do not know this firsthand. This is probably fourth party information that this particular business doesn't really make money.
It happens.
But hey, everybody needs a loss on their taxes every now and then.
Like I said, going back to the story earlier, 2018. So my wife and I owned Pickle Barrel. It closed. Neat closed. My clothing company was we made, if you're not familiar with Ghost Tactical, we made shirts and socks.
Did you get scammed?
Basically.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay.
The deal there was like we made clothes that you can sweat in all day and it didn't stink. It was an antimicrobial treatment in the clothing. And we were, truth be told, we were trying to be like a multi-million-dollar business. It wasn't something that was going to be, make 100,000, 200,000 here. Like it was going to be boom or bust. We were targeting the military. It was one of those things like we're either going to hit a grand slam or it's going to go belly up. And when it started going belly up, I started recognizing that, I was actually getting scammed on some things, but it's like any other business. You overpromise and you fake it till you make it, and that's what was going on. I don't think there was an intentional scam as much as it was
maybe
just
oversold and underdelivered.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was one of those. It got to a point where I'm like, I know how to do all of this stuff. Why is more weight not being put on my shoulders?
Yeah. When great salespeople but not good business people open businesses, that is the number one symptom.
Yep, and that's what happened. But it also got me into real estate and stuff like that. And in that time, and then COVID hit. And so not only did my businesses close and my main income close, I went from, I'm not bashful to say this, I went from a 6-figure income to I lost a zero on that.
I would say you were probably in multiple six figures at one point, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I lost a zero. That is
like you went to literal goose egg
from 200 to 20,000 a year is what I did. Yeah.
That's right. At least I had 37 at Nukes, dog.
Yeah, it was in the middle of COVID, so nobody was hired. Like it was a struggle, you know, and man, I was blaming everybody. Kind of the same thing. Like it was everybody else's fault. It was everybody else was doing. Like I didn't fail here. This person failed, and then you start to sit in it. And I'll be completely honest with you. Within the last year of my life is where I've started really changing the mentality and taking the ownership of. You know what? No, this is. If I would have did this, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
If I would have did this, this wouldn't have happened. Yeah. And in that mindset, man, so much clarity has come through that. Now, has it been easy? Hell no.
Yeah.
It's been very difficult. It's a very big pill to swallow.
Yeah.
But when you're able to admit that to yourself, you can start really growing. And I feel like I've grown a lot on a personal and mental level here in the last year and started seeing things. Now, thankfully, I'll be honest with you guys, the mayor and I were friends. We had a podcast together, kind of like this. It's called Talking Shop, where we interviewed business owners. And
oh, you did that in his cigar shop, didn't you? Yeah. Okay, I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
that was kind of before podcasts were really like huge, right?
Yeah, it was one of those. So what had happened there, the school board was making, like, this was when all the crazy stuff was going on with Monroe City School Board. And it was constantly, like, it was like what Doge is doing right now to your social media feed. It was just everything was going. It was just negative. And we're sitting there. We're in downtown at Rolla Roaster drinking coffee one morning, and I go and look, and I go see how many friends. At this time, it was Friday. It wasn't the mayor, but the mayor and I had in common. And my friends on there is maxed out and his is maxed out, but we only had like 150 people in comment. I'm like, Friday, if we do just start interviewing business owners and start putting some positive content out there, and let's just get like people lean on us and ask us all the time. I know they do this to you, man. How do you do that? How do you start that up? How do you do this? How do you do this? And that's the most exciting part. So I don't know if Harrison's ever told you the most exciting part of opening a business is actually opening the business.
Oh, dude. I mean, can you remember the first day where we were
together,
so proud of each other and like high-fiving our way out the door and seeing the first dollar come in and watching the first Joe give away the first drink ever for free. Yeah, that's always great. Thanks, Joe.
And Rux.
Yeah. Right.
I'm going to give him some love. He still works for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's such an exciting moment, man. But you can't, that's the excitement. Then you got to get into business ownership.
Yeah. Then it's the consistency of doing it and doing it and doing it over and over and over again. That's where people, they get, I don't want to say burnt out, but they start losing interest very quickly.
So let's talk about the losing interest part. And so I have my own theory because I know you went from, you went from hero to zero, and we're climbing, right?
Yep.
Let's talk about the losing interest part. All right. What do you, and you said earlier that you started to, about a year ago, you started to take accountability and ownership of those things that happened.
Yep.
And because at first you were blaming everybody else, that's victim, right? Yep. And then you got into leadership, which is, hey, everything that happens to or for me in this life is my fault.
Right.
And I understand that there's some things in life you can't help, but if you'll begin to take ownership and accountability of everything in your life, I mean, everything, 100%, you will start to learn that you are the most powerful person in your world. And that you have the ability to create or diminish every day that you wake up. When was that turning point for you? And tell me, what were the things that you were blaming things on?
So, man, I was blaming things on my wife. I was blaming things on competition. I was blaming things on
probably the market,
business partners, the market, the city, everybody. I mean, it was everybody's fault but my own.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you this might get a little emotional. So May of last year, and if you know me, you know that one of my biggest talents, like I'm one of those people, hey, do you have such and such's phone number? Yep, here it is. I build bridges between people. I've always been really, really good at that. And that whole time, through all of that negativity and that failure, it was, you start getting into psychology of things. Like my inner child wanted somebody to just help me.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to ask for help.
Yeah.
And going through that, I had a close friend. I'm not going to say his name, but he's really good friends with was really good friends with Havert and I. And he calls me one day out of the blue, and I'm just sitting in my office, and I see him, and I hadn't talked to this guy in a while, and I just let the phone ring. And for no reason. Like I wasn't doing anything that didn't stop me from answering the phone. And it just sat. I just didn't want to talk on the phone. And I just sat there, and about a week goes by, and I'm like, man, I really need to call him. So I pick up the phone, I call him. He's like, hey, man, I'm busy right now. I'll call you back in just a minute. He calls me back a few hours later, and a few hours later, I'm talking about like, he is red. And we're on the phone. Like he is angry, mad. Like the kind of situation where like, if I ever call you and you don't say, where the hell are you at? I'm coming. We got to figure this out. Like it was one of those. And as a friend, like I'm like, man, I can tell you're in a bad spot right now. When you cool off, you want to go grab a beer, give me a call. 2 days later, it's Memorial Day weekend. I'm driving down to my parents' house, and I get a phone call that he's no longer with us. And my kids are asleep in the back seat, and I'm in Vidalia. Very, very vividly remember this. I'm on the Vidalia side of everything. I just turned my radio off, and for that 2 hours, I just sat in silence, just thinking. And I'm like, man, you're the bridge builder. You're the one that connects people. This guy was very clearly reaching out for you. Hadn't talked to you in years. He needed help, and you didn't show up. And so you talk about God moments. Like this was one of those, son, I gave you talents,
and you're not
using them.
Yeah.
Use your damn talents.
Yeah.
And it was one of those holy shit moments.
Yeah.
And for that 2 hours, man, there are things like, I'm not going to go into all the details, but in my personal life that I've been trying to reconnect in the last year and things that I've been trying to do. When you start as a man, when you start taking ownership, that wasn't that person's fault. Because if I'd have showed up right here, this doesn't happen. This is a symptom. Yeah. You quit blaming the symptoms and start owning. Look, everybody as a business owner, I say this all the time, as a business owner, you will realize that you work for the best and worst boss you've ever had. Because there are things that you recognize as a bit, man, if I did this a little bit better, I would be doing better here. And so you either hire that. I knew my first day of accounting, I'm gonna hire this out.
That's right.
I'm not leaning into this. I'm gonna hire this out.
Yeah.
But you realize that there are things that you can be better at, and if you actually put in the attention and effort to that thing, your business would be much better.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things that I knew that about myself and I wasn't doing. And
so you just hid from the shit that you didn't want to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's where the failure started to come in. Like I said, and then there were things like the power affects you. And it's weird to say it that way, but the power does affect you.
I agree.
I had multiple businesses. You couldn't tell me nothing. 28 years old, money I was making off of ideas that I created.
As one of your closest friends at the time, I will agree that no one could tell you anything.
Yeah, that's same, right?
Yeah, and I wasn't much different.
Yeah, it was one of those. But in that same breath, like there were things that I was doing, and people were telling me, "Wait, what are you doing? Quit doing that. Quit doing that." And I wouldn't listen. And we did, and it failed. And then it was one of those. Yeah, I need to start listening to the people around me more.
Yeah,
I need to quit acting like I'm on an island.
Everybody needs a boardroom. Everybody answers to somebody. Everybody kicks up to somebody. Yep. Being a business owner does not mean you're at the top of your food chain.
That's right.
And if you view yourself as the top of your food chain, I can almost assure you that ego or your character, you will have a breakdown there.
That's right.
I can tell you today that yes, I own 8 or 9 companies. I have partners in most of them, but I'm typically the money guy or the person who is. I run the meetings, right? And I can tell you, I answer to people. There are 3 or 4 people that I hold myself. They don't own me. I don't work for them. Some of them are my partners. I think they're mostly minority partners in these companies, right? But they have a right to speak into my life, analyze my life. I got a phone call from one of them this week. Hey, you just made a really big decision and you didn't even call me and consult me. And this had nothing, by the way, it doesn't affect them not one penny. But I gave them a right to speak into my life, and they noticed that I made a really big decision without them. I was like, oh, shit, my bad, man. Like, I actually apologized, even though...
Yeah.
And so it's about being accountable. You have to have a boardroom. Yeah. You need a personal boardroom. People who can tell you, I don't think you're doing the right thing. Yeah. And you're not allowed to be mad at them either.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Man, I would tell you, I've learned from the professional standpoint, and I guess switching gears a little bit, our chief operating officer of the city, Jimmy Bryant, when we walked, I'm going to tell you, when I walked into City Hall with the mayor after the first election, kind of the middle of COVID, we did the inauguration across the street and then literally walked across the street to City Hall. I'm like, oh, okay, this is it. And it was one of those, the dog that caught the tire moments. Okay, well, what do we do now? And there was like 3 or 4 of us in there, and there was a lot of discussions. There was so many rumors spread that we were going to come in and fire everybody. Yeah, which was the farthest thing from the truth for 2 reasons. One, the unions wouldn't allow it. Yeah. First and foremost, and then number 2, we didn't know enough about what was going on. Yeah, right. Yeah. To be able to justify if you were doing. And here's the craziest thing. And I told the mayor when we walked in, I was like, man, this is going to play out exactly like Pickle Barrel played out for me. There were situations like when I bought that business, I should have went in there, started completely over. But I didn't know enough about that business to be able to go and let go of all the waitresses in the back of the house and all that. I didn't know anything about it.
You probably didn't even know how to run the meat slicer.
It was. Yeah. I didn't know enough about it. But what I did know was that if I made people work, they were eventually, your negative employees are eventually going to work their way out the door.
100%.
And so that was our focus. Let's make people work, and let's make people do their job and hold them accountable. And the craziest thing that comes from that, and I the very first day at Pickle Barrel, I asked the manager in place, I was like, hey, if there was one decision you could make up here, what would it be? And she pointed at one of the waitresses and said, I'd fire her right now. That waitress was with me the day I closed the business. Nobody else in that building was with me. So it could tell you that sometimes people will tell you, this is what I would do, and this is the best, and it's not the best idea.
Yeah.
Because that employee was one of the hardest working employees we had. She just didn't fit in with the group because the group was cancer.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was, how do we challenge? We've done that. We've challenged a lot of people to do your job and what we have found is some employees that people were like, man, you got to get rid of them. No.
Yeah.
They had a muzzle and a choker on them. We let them run, and they are amazing. And they're doing incredible work and doing incredible things for the city. And then there were some people, they're like, oh, they're doing. So a lot of people walked in the mayor's office and they didn't know. Like, I remember our first employee of the month, who's one of my favorite coworkers, she thought we were going in there to fire her. And it was our first employee of the month. We didn't tell her what it was.
Yeah.
But she's like, wait, what? Yeah, you're doing
because
incredible
the rumors that
work.
said heads are about to roll.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was just, I mean, there's been a lot of like craziness that's gone on there. But sitting in Jimmy Bryant's office, his first meeting, it was me and the mayor sitting in City Hall. His first meeting, he comes in with a stack of papers. And I mean, if you know this man, he's old enough to be our father because he does have kids our age. And he's, Mayor, you can promise to build all the buildings you want, bring all the jobs you want here. But if you don't deliver these get their garbage cans picked up, deliver them clean water, and get the dirty water removed from the house, you're not going to make it past 4 years. Yeah. And no truer words have ever been said in City Hall. And the mayor and I have moments where we just look at each other and we're talking to each other without saying a word. And it was one of those, he said that and I looked at him, I was like, we got to keep this man.
Yeah.
This man. And man, there are times our new employees, I tell them, I was like, just go to his office. Just go glean whatever kind of information you can get, because that man has forgotten more than we will ever learn.
You're talking about Jimmy and
Jimmy Bryant. Yeah,
okay,
yeah. He got hired as a fire chief at 38 years old. Right. I was 38 when I walked in the door. Yeah. Right. And I was the youngest staffer at that time. And it was one of those, like, there's a lot to be learned up there. And there's a lot to be learned in that building about business and life and things like that. And there's been some people in my life, like I said, in this last year, like just going in, he's like, are you sure about that decision? This is not just work. This is like personal. So are you sure? Do you really? He said, I think everybody can work that out. I think you can figure this out. Are you sure? And it's never hey, you got to do it this way. You got to do it this way. It's all, think about what you're doing. Yeah. Right. And that was a lot of the last few years, like your last few years, my last few years, is a lot of wisdom is starting to set in because life is starting to happen. And in that, it's just been a lot of growth that has come from that building for me, both professionally and personally.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. As we get ready to close, I feel like a pastor when I say that. As we get ready to conclude this sermon.
You are a pastor's son. So
I am a pastor's kid. I've seen the ending of many sermons. Born on that pew. But the resounding thing here is you guys heard a lot about failure today. Two guys who have been at what we thought was the top, right? And then two guys who landed on their face. There was something I told myself one day. This is when I went from victim to leadership. And this was, this is when I wasn't able to see Clayton. So if you know that story, you know it. But I had a son that I didn't get to see for 5 years. And about 2 years, I was hopping in the bottom of a bottle as much as I possibly could. I was being a functional alcoholic is really what I was doing. And just trying to bury my pain and my rejection and all that stuff. And at the end of that, when I woke up and I decided, hey, I'm gonna go sober, I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna take control back of my life. I was being successful in business, but everything else in my life was suffering. Yep. And I said, I am going to be who I need to be the day that the opportunity is given to me again. And that can be said for both of our situations. That can be applied to anyone's life. Is you need to be who you need to start acting like the person you need to be to seize the opportunity that you don't know is coming yet. And that's what I know. That's what I'm working on. I don't know what my next opportunity is. DJ, do you know what yours is?
I have no idea. I have an idea, but I have no idea.
But are you working on being the man that you need to be to seize that opportunity and capitalize on it?
Yeah, I just need to go take a test, right?
Oh man,
a whole other story.
Yeah.
No, I used to tell employees at NEAT, because the bar industry was one of the worst at this. Prepare to be great and fail trying to be great, or don't prepare to be great and fail miserably.
Yeah.
Right? Like get everything set up, get everything ready to go. Like we're going to have 1,000 people in here.
That's right.
And if we don't have 1,000 people in here, guess what? We're set up for tomorrow.
Yeah.
But if we have them, you're not scrambling and you make more money.
Yeah.
You know, that was one of the things, like it was always kind of the baseball mentality. Practice like you play.
Yeah.
Because the game will eventually get there, whether you're ready for it or not.
Yeah, it's not practice makes perfect. It's actually perfect practice makes perfect. Yep. And so when you're pitching, DJ, because DJ was a collegiate pitcher, DJ, when you were at practice, and I don't know, I mean, how fast did you throw when you threw a fastball?
Not that hard.
Were you more of a control pitcher?
I threw from down here. I was more of a submarine guy.
But when you were throwing
85 to 88.
Okay, but so your job was to make the ball move then, right? Okay. And so when you were practicing, were you throwing hard? Were you trying to make that ball move at practice too?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything.
And because it's for two reasons, right? One, DJ needs to practice the way he plans on showing up to the game that Saturday, which I don't think y'all play on Saturdays, but whatever. Maybe some Saturdays.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay, got it. Every day of the week, got it. And then the person who's sitting in the batter's box, they're trying to practice too. They need the practice of the person who's going all in for them too.
Right.
And so when you practice with intent, you're showing everyone else how to show up, and everyone is being more prepared for the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So take your teams and go all in.
Iron sharpens iron.
Let's go. All right. Guys, we appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning into this week's episode of Let's Go. We will see you next week. Have a good one.